You know, they live inside of us, on us, and they travel with us. They're a part of the human story that's as old as we are, but most of the time we never even know they're there. Okay, so let's dive right into the fascinating and, yeah, slightly unnerving world of our hidden companions, human parasites. So, right off the bat, I want you to grasp the sheer scale of what we're talking about here. Global health estimates suggest that 1/4 of the world's population, 1 in 4 people, is infected with intestinal parasites. That's not millions, that's billions of people. So this isn't some rare, far-off issue, it's a massive, and often totally silent, global health reality. So, what exactly is a parasite? Well, the CDC has a really clear definition for us. A parasite isn't just a freeloader, right? It's an organism that actually sets up shop in or on a host, that's us, and gets its food at our expense. It's a completely one-sided relationship, one where the host always loses out. To really get a handle on these organisms, we need to know who the main players are. Parasites that make humans sick pretty much fall into 3 main categories. So, let's meet them. First up, we've got the protozoa. I want you to think of these as the microscopic invaders. They're just single-celled organisms, but please do not let their size fool you. Their most important feature is their ability to multiply rapidly inside the human body. And what that means is that a single organism can spiral into a really serious, overwhelming infection. Next up are the helminths. Now, these are the ones that probably pop into your head first. We're talking about parasitic worms. And unlike protozoa, these guys are large, multicellular. But here's what's really interesting. In their adult form, they can't actually replicate inside a human. So the severity of the infection really depends on how many you were exposed to in the first place. And finally, we have the ectoparasites. These are the outsiders. So instead of living in the body, they live on it. We're talking about those critters you're probably familiar with, like ticks, lice, and fleas that burrow into or just attach right onto the skin. Okay, now that we know the 3 main types, let's look at some real-world examples. We're going to open up the case files on 3 major parasites to see exactly how they operate and the kind of impact they have. Our first case file is malaria. It's caused by a protozoan called Plasmodium. And of all the parasitic diseases, malaria is by far the deadliest. It kills over 400,000 people every single year. And the most heartbreaking part, the vast majority of those who die are young children. It's a truly devastating global health crisis. The way malaria spreads is just this simple but brutally effective cycle. It all kicks off with the bite of an infected mosquito. The parasite gets into the human bloodstream and just starts multiplying like crazy. Then, when another mosquito comes along and bites that infected person, it picks up the parasite, becomes a carrier, and just like that, the cycle continues. You know, at first, malaria might just feel like the flu. You get a fever, chills, headache, but if it goes untreated, it can escalate incredibly fast. We're talking severe symptoms like confusion, seizures, and trouble breathing, sometimes developing in less than 24 hours. It is an absolute race against time. Let's move on to our next case file, Ascariasis. This is an infection caused by a helminth, a type of roundworm. And unlike malaria, which needs a mosquito, this parasite is a stowaway. It gets into our bodies through something we do every single day, eating and drinking. The real danger with roundworms is how subtle they can be. A lot of infections cause no symptoms at all. But inside a host, especially a child, they're like tiny thieves, literally stealing nutrients. This can lead to malnutrition, anemia, and even blockages in the intestine. Over time, this can seriously mess with a child's physical growth and their brain development. It's like it steals their future from the inside out. And for our final case file, let's talk about toxoplasmosis. This one is so important because it shows that these infections aren't just a problem somewhere else. It's caused by a protozoan, and it's estimated that about 11% of the US population over the age of 6 has it. You usually get it from things like undercooked meat or contaminated food. So when you look at these 3 cases side by side, you start to see a really clear pattern. We've got 2 protozoa and 1 helminth, right? But each one has a completely different way of getting to us. One needs an insect, the other 2 sneak in through our food and water. It just goes to show you there's no single weakness. These things are incredibly adaptable invaders. So when you look at the sheer scale of this, with billions of people affected all over the world, the problem can feel, well, just overwhelming. So the question is, how do we even begin to fight back against these hidden invaders? Well, the good news is we are not defenseless, not at all. We have a growing arsenal of tools for both finding and treating them.
But the absolute key is figuring out which specific intruder you're dealing with first. It's kind of like a microscopic crime scene investigation.
So, how do doctors find them? Well, it really depends on the suspect. For intestinal parasites, they'll look at stool samples for eggs. For parasites in the blood, like malaria, blood tests can spot the organism itself or the antibodies our bodies make to fight it. And in more complicated cases, doctors might even use tiny cameras to look inside your gut, or imaging tests like an MRI to check for any organ damage. Okay, once the parasite is identified, our main line of attack is medication. We have a whole range of really effective antiparasitic drugs that work like precision weapons. For instance, drugs like albendazole are fantastic for treating roundworms, while something like pyrimethamine is crucial for toxoplasmosis. These drugs are designed specifically to target and kill the parasite without harming us, the host. Treatment is obviously vital, but the larger global battle, that's really about prevention. It's about understanding the bigger picture of how these diseases work. And this brings us to a really crucial idea, something called neglected tropical diseases, or NTDs. A lot of the parasites we've talked about, especially worms like Ascariasis, fall into this category. They mainly affect low-income countries, and while they might not always kill, they cause enormous disability, they stunt childhood development, and they literally hold back entire economies. They are a massive, but often unseen, burden on the world. So, what can you do? What's your best defense? It's prevention. And honestly, the steps are surprisingly simple. Washing your hands often is huge. Making sure your water is clean and your food is cooked and washed properly, that dramatically cuts your risk from foodborne parasites. And of course, if you're in an area with bugs that carry diseases, protecting yourself from bites is absolutely key. And that leaves us with this final thought. Our fight with parasites is an ancient arms race. It's an evolutionary dance that goes back millennia. But the rules of the game are changing. We have more global travel than ever, and a warming climate is letting insects like mosquitoes expand their territory. So what does the future hold? How we adapt is going to define the next chapter in this very long, very intimate relationship between humans and our hidden companions.